Hello everyone, this is Abraham. I'm sure that many Christians would be surprised to learn that Jesus held people responsible for not reading and following the scriptures. Here are some examples where Jesus challenges and confronts the lawgivers, the Jews, the Gentiles regarding their ignorance of the scriptures. Have you not read what David did? Or have you not read in the law? Have you not read that he which made them? These are some of the examples. Now, even after 2000 years of studying the Bible, we are still the same, assuming instead of reading, researching, meditating and keeping the law. If we were not so, we would not have been holding on to our strange customs, our strange practices, and stuck to the age-old traditions instead of asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why deck up a Christmas tree? Where does the Yule log and Santa come from? While most of these are mystical, others are downright lame. Our reading for today's meditation is taken from the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke, chapters 2. Although it is only a cross-section of the readings that I have taken, I would highly recommend you to read the entire chapters to get a better understanding of this discussion. And if you have no access to a physical Bible, I have added a link to King James Bible below, as all the scriptural reference for this message is from KJV. Matthew chapter 2 verses 7 to 11 and 16, saying, Where is he that is born King of Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and come to worship him. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. The second reading is taken from the Gospel of Luke chapter 2 verses 8 and 16. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. Let's close our eyes and join in a small prayer. Open our eyes, O Lord, to hear your word and know your voice. Speak to our hearts and strengthen our wills, that we may serve you now and always. As I stand before you, Jesus, to speak your words, let your spirit fill me from within, from outside, from all around me, so that all the words that I speak be of yours, for your glory. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord Jesus. Amen. Now, I thought of this message would be appropriate at this time, as we are just in the hangover of celebrating Christmas and New Year, including millions of non-Christians. At this particular point, I want to ask you one question. Is Christmas relevant to Christ? And for the benefit of this message, to answer the above question, we are going to answer a set of 4 questions to get a greater understanding into this topic. What was the climate during Jesus' time? Was Jesus born on the 25th of December? Did Jesus or any of his disciples celebrate his birthday? Does the Bible say anything about birthdays? To answer the first question, what was the climate during Jesus' time? We have 2 references. The first one is Luke chapter 2 verse 8. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. So we come across here the scenario in that particular event where the shepherds were in the field keeping watch over their flock. According to Luke, the writer of the Gospel of Luke, and historians, astronomers and meteorologists, they have a point. During December, Bethlehem and Palestine even today is in winters. December being 2.8 degrees, January 1.6 degrees, February 0.1. In fact, the first 2 months, which is December and January, respectively get 6 inches and 8 inches of rainfall. Now, this particular slide will give you an idea about the daylight that these places had, which is on an average 8 hours in December. So working up all these 3 points together, that they had an average rainfall of 60 millimeters in December, average daylight of 8 hours in December, and the temperature being 1.6 degrees. The question that we want to ask you is, do you think it is practical? It is not impossible, definitely not. But looking at the next few slides, we will repeatedly ask the same question. Luke chapter 2 verse 1 to 4. Here we come across the census that was ordered by Caesar Augustus, which was of its first of its kind. It was done because the Roman government wanted to make sure that everyone in the empire was paying their taxes correctly. The census was carried out all over the empire, which is mostly Europe, but in Palestine it was carried out in a Jewish way rather than a Roman way. This meant that families had to register in their historical tribal town rather than where they lived. This also meant that Joseph and the very pregnant Mary would have to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem, as this was the town of Joseph's family, the royal family of David. So when I googled the distance between Nazareth and Bethlehem, it was about 156 kilometers, which is 33 hours by foot. Now I want you to ask yourself this question: is it possible for a census, first of all, to be ordered in this climate? Taking into consideration this being an earthly government, it is wet, when it is cold, when it is the least amount of daylight you get, and especially when people had to move around, a huge amount of movement was happening during this time for people to move back to their tribal towns to register. Is this practical? Again, it is not impossible, but this is not practical. Luke chapter 2 verse 6. Mary delivered while she was there in Bethlehem. So the second thing that we have to take into consideration is when they traveled on their foot to get to this place, she was 8 or 9 months pregnant, maybe lesser, but still she was pregnant. And there is no reference that she had any kind of motor vehicles or any kind of transport being available, as a donkey or a horse carriage being available. Although we have been picturizing Mary traveling on a donkey, but in the scriptures there is no reference to a donkey that she was using. It might have been possible, but it is not there as of now in this point. So they were traveling by foot, which means 3 to 4 days travel, 8 hours daylight, cold winters, heavy rainfall, a big distance. So now you must ask yourself this question: do you picturize yourself in that situation? Do you see that your wives, your children, or your parents or your relatives could travel that distance when they are pregnant? The second reference is from Matthew chapter 24 verse 20, where Jesus actually answers Gentiles and Jews a question about the end of the world, where he says, "Pray ye that flight be not in winter." My question is, when God takes care of you and me so much that he don't want us to suffer in a winter during a war time, especially for pregnant women and nursing babies, when God takes care of you and me so much, would he not plan a better time for his own son, the one and only son Jesus, and his mom and dad Mary and Joseph? I think he would. He's a kind God. Now let's go back to the scriptures again. The second reference we have regarding the climate is in Matthew chapter 2 verse 2. "For we have seen his star in the east and come to worship him." These are the words of Magi. Again, it says Magi, doesn't say 2 or 3 or 4. Just because there were 3 gifts, gold, frankincense and myrrh, doesn't really represent 3 Magi there. Magi itself is plural, so at least there was 2. But these Magi reported that they saw a star in the east, and following that star they have come to worship him. This is indeed a strange sighting. A strange sighting to see a star in the east, and therefore this led them to come and inquire in the King Herod's court. It was not any simple star, but Star of David. So the next question that we are going to ask ourselves is, so was Jesus born in December? As we said earlier, it's not impossible, but it seems unlikely considering all the facts we discussed above. The Bible does not specify a date or month. One problem with December is that it would be unusual for shepherds to be abiding in the field. In quote, abiding in the field. At this time of a cold time of the year when fields are really unproductive, the normal practice would be to keep the flocks in the fields from spring to autumn. Also, winter would likely be a difficult time for pregnant Mary to travel a long distance of 156 kilometers between Nazareth and Bethlehem. Does that picture come into your mind? Can you picturize yourself in that situation now? Now let's consider the second fact. Is it mentioned about Jesus' birthday in the Bible? There is no reference in Bible as to Jesus or any of his disciples celebrating his birthday. There are references to birthday celebrations in the Bible, and there are two specific references to birthdays, and two more I have added. The first one is of the Egyptian Pharaoh during Joseph's time, when the Egyptian Pharaoh used this occasion to hang his chief baker, which is recorded in Genesis chapter 40 verse 20. So a murder happening during a birthday celebration of a pagan king. The second reference is again to a pagan king, King Herod, during Jesus' time, when he used the occasion to behead John the Baptist, which is referred in Matthew 14:6 and Mark 6:21. So a second reference to a birthday celebration and a murder happening. The third reference does not specifically say birthday or a marriage anniversary, but it was a celebration where Job's 7 sons and 3 daughters died on the same day. It is referred to in Job chapter 1 verse 19. And this specifically happened when a strong wind struck the 4 corners of the house and it fell on his 7 sons and 3 daughters. Not sure if these celebrations were anything to do with birthdays, but surely it was not a good one, because Job disapproved of it, because Job sent and sacrificed them and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus did Job continually. The fourth reference, believe it or not, was during Jesus' time, when King Herod ordered all children under 2 years of age to be killed, and it, I believe, is 144,000, as it is mentioned in the little flock, which is in Luke chapter 12 verse 32 and in Revelation chapter 7 verses 9 and 14, because these are the 144,000 who will rise first with Jesus, and then the rest of the dead who will rise with Jesus. Therefore, the exact date of Jesus' birth is not known, but definitely the early Christians did not celebrate his birthday because they considered the celebration of anyone's birth to be a pagan custom. To support this view, in 1643, the Puritans, who regarded such celebrations as pagan and outlawed the observance of Christmas in England, colonists in New England followed the New English laws and also outlawed Christmas. But immigrants to the New World brought Christmas customs from many lands, and the old festivities were soon restored. The fact that there are only 2 incidents of birthday celebrations recorded in the Bible is evidently given for our warning and our learning, that we may know that the Lord has no pleasure in birthday celebrations or anniversaries. Therefore, it brings to the next question: when was Jesus born? While births are significant in scriptures, but birthdays are not at all, because we see none of God's servants, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, name it anyone, King Saul, King David, anyone, name any of them, none of their birthdays have been recorded. Therefore, births are significant but not birthdays. The Bible itself tells us that December 25 is unlikely date for his birthday, because Palestine and Nazareth and all those surrounding areas were cold climate, and therefore it was not possible for someone to travel this distance. So even if you say that Christmas is the time when Jesus was born, my question is, where do the traditions of Christmas tree, Yule log, mistletoe, holy wreaths, where do these come from? Are any of these customs truly Christian in origin? And what about the fat and jolly old Saint Nick or Santa Claus? Do they have an origin? Have you ever taken some time out to research where these things originated from? I would encourage you to personally spend some time researching on these topics. Imagine the time that we spent when we shop around for things, looking around for the best deal, researching and looking at reviews. Isn't that a considerable amount of time that we spent on insignificant things in our life? 354 AD. This was the first year since Jesus' crucifixion that Jesus' birthday was officially celebrated. So 354 years passed, no one celebrated. This was the first time someone thought, let's celebrate Jesus' birthday. 1643, the Puritans in England outlawed the celebration of Christmas. In 1659, on the 11th of May, the Massachusetts Bay Colony legislature even went so far to officially ban Christmas and gave anyone found celebrating it a fine of 5 shillings. This ban remained in place for 22 years until it was repealed in 1681 after a new surge of European immigrants brought a demand for the holiday, when it was restored. In 1800, the German prince brought the evergreen tree or the Christmas tree in court to England. It was photographed on a Christmas card. It was then officially became a Christmas tree in Christmas celebration. In the 1930s, the Coca-Cola advertisement with Santa Claus in red and white was a new era in its beginning. So these are some certain timelines that you can investigate for yourself when you have time to learn more about all these pagan festivities and celebrations. Therefore, to conclude and to confirm, let's read from Galatians 4 verses 9 to 11, Colossians 2 verse 16, where Paul reproves Galatians for turning back again onto these celebrations, onto these new moons and Sabbaths and things like that, and that he says that we observe days, months, times and year. I'm afraid of you, he says, because Paul had a vision of the inconsistencies or of observing such special holidays by what the prophet Amos had in view of God's displeasure of Israel's festivities when he said in Amos chapter 5 verse 21, I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. The facts that God has helped me to bring forth to you. Even now, if you think otherwise, you can still continue. But as for me and my family, in the light of my personal encounters with Yeshua and counting the many blessings, naming them one by one, it does surprise me how much Yeshua loves us. Therefore, we have decided to follow Yeshua and reject all pagan festivities. As we come to a close of this sermon, I would encourage you to read this book, The Birth of Christ by Charles Spurgeon. The link to that is given below. You can click on that and it's free to download. May the peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Amen.
Hey friends, did you like that video? Yeah, I thought you would. Why don't you check out our other videos? Good stuff. It's all good stuff. Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos.